So Ichigo and the gang go through the gate to the Soul Society and are running through the Dangai, the precipice world between their world and the Soul Society. The walls start collapsing and Yoruichi tells them not to get swallowed up in the current when a big train called the Cleaner appears. It goes through the Dangai every 7 days, and as fate would have it, the day they decide to leave for the Soul Society is cleaning day. And Yoruichi is all like, come on people, run for your lives, but why weren't they warned about such a thing ahead of time, seeing as how it can kill them? Again, I'm assuming the answer is LOL, but fortunately for them, Orihime puts up a shield just as they're about to get run over that stops the Cleaner and blows them through the other side of the gate. And finally, we land in the Soul Society. They've shown small glimpses of this place before, but now we're finally here and it all looks pretty bland, boring, and even primitive. This is mostly personal preference, of course, but everything here seems ancient and outdated. I guess the Soul Reapers never thought to update their architecture. Not that I was expecting it to look all futuristic and cyberpunk-like, but this just looks like Japan from like 1,000 years ago. Seems like they just got to a certain point and literally just stopped advancing. Anyway, Yoruichi's very upset at Orihime for using her powers.
I told you not to expose your spiritual powers in there. We're fortunate that the Cleaner only made contact with the shield area. If it had even touched any part of the 6 flowers themselves, you'd all be dead now.
I didn't know.
Hey, lighten up. How is Orihime supposed to know that? And anyway, if it hadn't been for her quick thinking, we wouldn't have made it through that gate in the first place.
Yeah, I'm with Ichigo here. What Yoruichi's saying makes no sense. If it wasn't for her, they'd be just as dead. Maybe next time you want to communicate with your group how these things work and the possible dangers before putting their lives at risk. It seems this cat is about as logical as Kisuke. Anyway, the gang arrived in the Rukongai, the poorest and most populated area in the Soul Society that just so happens to be on the perimeter of the Serite, the place where all the Soul Reapers live, and where Rukia is being held. So it's not the worst spawn they could have gotten, lucky for them. Ichigo sees the way to the Serite and rushes in because he's Ichigo. He gets stopped by this big gorilla-looking guy named Jidambo, who Yoruichi says is one of the Soul Society's best warriors who's been guarding this gate for 300 years. I wonder how Yoruichi knows that. Anyway, Ichigo fights this guy one-on-one and we get some pretty standard cringe anime dialogue along with another really shit fight scene.
There have only been 2 who have come along before you who were powerful enough to stop my first thrust. But that is where the story ends, because neither they nor you could ever hope to fend off my second thrust! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7!
What in the world is he doing?
7, 8, 12, 9, 6! Wait, I've never had to count this high before, but I must be at 10 by now, so it's time to finish this! Got him, I think.
Moral here is Ichigo's really strong. I do like that he mentions this about Kisuke's training though.
Remember when I was training with Mr. Hattenclogs? He said it was gonna take me 10 days for my Soul Reaper powers to be completely restored. But as it turned out, it only took me 5 days. So, what do you think I did for those other 5 days?
Knowing you, probably goofing off.
I fought with him the whole time. For so long, non-stop for 5 days and nights. He and I battled each other one-on-one.
I see. And you learned all his fighting techniques, right?
Wrong again.
So what's your point then?
I didn't learn a single thing from him about fighting. But in those long hours, I gained tremendous strength and stamina.
Really just solidifying what I said earlier that Ichigo's only ace is his power level, i.e. a great deal of spiritual power and nothing else. Anyway, Ichigo destroys Jidambo's axes and he starts crying.
Ruin! Why did you have to do it? Why did you have to destroy my beautiful babies? Why?
Wow. I guess it's supposed to be funny, but it's more cringe than anything else. And so because Ichigo defeated Jidambo, he decides to let them and the gang pass through the gate. Yes, Ichigo swings his sword at this guy one time to destroy his weapons and he lets them through the gate. These people are intruders to the Soul Society that are clearly very powerful with completely unknown intentions, and yet he's just going to let them into the Serite. Okay. This guy is clearly pretty shit at his job, but alright. Off to a very bad first impression of the Serite security, but just as they open the gate, they're approached by this guy in a white coat similar to Byakuya's. He's Gin Ichimaru, captain of Squad 3. That's what these white coats signify, by the way, that someone is a captain of a particular group of Soul Reapers and are generally more powerful than the ordinary Soul Reapers, usually top tier power level wise. Anyway, Gin seems to know Ichigo, or at least he's heard the name before. This prompts him to release his Zanpakuto and push Ichigo and Jidambo out of the Serite and away from the gate. Ichigo blames himself for the gate being closed, and Yoruichi is like,
No, don't start blaming yourself. Your opponent was Gin Ichimaru. It couldn't be helped. You should just be glad that you were not hurt.
And no one gives enough of a damn who Gin was to even ask, hey, who the hell was that guy and why didn't he kill us? Except for me, of course. I'm not sure what happened to those other Soul Reapers that were behind the gate. I guess Gin just told them to fuck off. Anyway, the gang needs a new way into the Serite, even though they could probably just climb over the gate or just destroy it. Or I don't know, since Ichigo is much stronger than Jidambo, just lift it himself. Yoruichi takes off trying to think of a new plan, and the gang's kinda just chilling in the Rukon guy for a little while, and we learn this little gem from one of the residents.
Well, no, not really. You see, I died in 1947. It happened in Yamanashi Prefecture. Long before Yuichi died. You can see by our age and location that we're far apart.
Here you don't change at all. You stay the same as when you first get here.
That's pretty cool. People in the Soul Society don't age. Anyway, later that night, Ichigo gets attacked by some weirdo. Nothing serious though, the scene was mostly just played for laughs. But Ichigo gets so upset about all this that when Yoruichi returns the following morning, informing the gang that he knows someone further out into the Rukon guy that might be able to help them get into the Serite, Ichigo refuses to go and wants to stay till the weirdo from the night before returns, so they can fight again. You're not going to believe this, but Yoruichi actually has to convince and remind Ichigo that not only is their time short, but the severity of the situation they're in, and that Rukia's life is on the chopping block. Did I mention that they were now short a day? I'm not sure the reason for a scene like this, but it was incredibly bizarre and unnecessary. Unless the point was to convey how unfocused and stupid Ichigo is. But regardless, the gang goes to meet Kukaku Shiba, a fireworks expert, and the weirdo who attacked Ichigo the night before is her brother Ganju. He is to accompany them to the Serite. Why? Well, she says she doesn't trust Ichigo and his friends, which makes no sense. Why would she doubt them or Yoruichi's trusting them, especially after the situation and why the gang is there is explained to her? She even states that if Kisuke is involved, she can't refuse, hinting at some sort of past history between the two. And I'm assuming she knows Kisuke and Yoruichi. As in, she knows them, not the way the gang and the viewer knows them, but she knows who they really are. So why would she not trust these guys? Is it just so we could have a dumb character for Ichigo to have dumb interactions and banter with? Maybe. Although Kukaku doesn't even seem to register the amount of danger she's about to put her brother in. It's not like Ganju's a strong character, he's probably the weakest in the group. Hell, even Yoruichi doesn't protest the decision to send this random guy with them. But whatever. Ganju joins the team and Kukaku reveals her plan to get everyone inside the Serite. She wants to put everyone in a kind of spiritual cannonball and launch them through the air and into the Serite. Now this actually made me laugh out loud because Yoruichi was against trying to get through the wall by force earlier. The reason why this is funny, or should I say stupid, is because Kukaku informs the gang that the wall around the Serite is made from a special rock that repels spirit energy and creates a spherical barrier around the entirety of the Serite above and below. But launching everyone into the sky above the Serite while in a spiritual cannonball to punch through the barrier sure sounds like something that would get the attention of, I don't know, every Soul Reaper living in the Serite. But for some reason Yoruichi doesn't object to this idea, even though the night before this asshole and the gang all agreed that there's probably going to be extra Soul Reapers waiting at each gate after what happened, and that trying them again would be unwise with all the extra security. But Kukaku's plan is far more dangerous than them even having to go through the same gate Gin appeared at. In fact, Kukaku's plan sounds more like a last resort than anything else. It would be much smarter to just try another gate with the increased security than making this big entrance into the Serite. That will surely alert more Soul Reapers. And you know what? They can't even cannonball themselves yet because Ichigo's going to need a little training on how to concentrate his fucking spirit energy. Because wouldn't you know, our main boy here doesn't know how to do such a simple thing.
He's the substitute Soul Reaper I was telling you about earlier, and he can't use spirit energy at all.
I mean, holy fuck, I know I've beaten this dead horse enough, but they really sent our boy into the Soul Society with his pants down. Now, even though the whole gang went to train, I singled out Ichigo specifically because he's the only one who can focus his spirit energy properly. Chad, Uryu, and Orihime all get it on their first try, but Ichigo's no quitter and he's trying his best. While that's happening, inside the Serite, the Soul Reaper captains have a meeting, and we see everyone gathered together for the first time. Now, bear with me here, there's 13 of these guys. First is Sosuke Aizen, captain of Squad 5, Sajin Kamamura, captain of Squad 7, Kaname Tozen, captain of Squad 9, Kenpachi Zaraki, captain of Squad 11, Soifon, captain of Squad 2, Unohana Retsu, captain of Squad 4, Byakuya Kuchiki, captain of Squad 6, Shunti Kyoraku, captain of Squad 8, Toshiro Hitsugaya, captain of Squad 10, Meiyuri Kurotsuchi, captain of Squad 12, head captain Ginryusai Yamamoto, who's obviously captain of Squad 1, Gin, who's just arrived, and Jushiro, who's currently absent. He's by far the friendliest of the bunch, but he's always sick with some shit. Now, the reason for this meeting is because Gin not only acted alone, but also failed to kill the invaders. But before any further questioning, they're interrupted by the fucking cannonball about to burst into the Serite barrier. The meeting is dismissed, and Kenpachi runs off to find the intruders. He's the captain that loves fighting the most. In fact, just thinking about the intruders that went up against Gin and survived excites him. Unfortunately for Kenpachi, once the cannonball hits the barrier, the gang gets split up into 4. Chad by himself, Uryu and Orihime together, and Ichigo with, you guessed it, Ganju. Yoruichi is also by himself, but somehow manages to straight up vanish into thin air right in front of a bunch of Soul Reapers. And he's actually kind of relieved that he's on his own and thinks it's better that way, which really doesn't make any sense since this plan couldn't have gone any worse. As I suspected, and as they should have suspected, the Soul Reapers are all aware that the intruders are now in the Serite. And to make matters worse, the gangs are all separated and are all in the most amount of danger imaginable, with Yoruichi not being able to guide the group any further. So how this asshole actually thinks him being separated from everyone is better and not the worst possible outcome is beyond me. A quick side note here, it's been made clear that Yoruichi is the most knowledgeable when it comes to the Soul Society as a whole, and told the gang before they left Kukaku's place that should any of them encounter a captain, they should just run away. Which is also funny because there is no such thing as running away from a captain, not unless that captain allows you to escape. The best advice to have given the gang is, should you encounter a captain, you should probably make your peace with God, because it'll be the fight of your life. Yoruichi also knows most of the captains and should have really given the gang a rundown on what to expect from a fight with the captain, or any Soul Reaper for that matter, but he probably doesn't give a shit. So while that pussy runs around doing God knows what, everyone else is just trying to survive as they encounter Soul Reapers all over the Serite. Now the tone here takes a bit of a left turn. The Soul Reapers have been built up to be this great force of good, these stern and ancient beings that keep the balance of pretty much the entire Bleach universe, and Ichigo going up against them to save Rukia would be this incredibly dangerous task. But since landing in the Serite, we find most of this to be false. The Soul Reapers are mostly cringy idiots that are played up for laughs and are extremely inadequate, but still, even with all this, how is it that our boys who are just running all over the Serite trying to regroup with each other and find Rukia are not instantly caught? This is a huge problem I have with the Soul Reapers because they have the ability to sense individual spiritual pressures, yet they behave as if they actually have to look for the intruders the same way a normal man would have to look for another man, when they should be able to just pinpoint their location with sensory abilities alone. Whenever one of our boys fight a Soul Reaper, there should be a sort of giant marker on their backs. But it's like there's no one else in existence. There's often a lot of screaming, powering up, destruction, and even general conversation, but somehow they kept this going for a little over 20 episodes, which is about 3 to 5 days in terms of real time for the characters. Also, the gang's handling of Soul Reapers they come across rarely makes any sense. They normally come across Soul Reapers with similar power levels to their own, or much lower. It's rare that one of them faces off against someone much more powerful than themselves, but should they win a battle, for some reason they have this big stance against killing their opponent. This could have been an interesting plot point for the gang if this was brought up before they left the world of the living. Kisuke and Yoruichi could have had a scene where they talk to these high school teens about the dangers of the world they're about to enter, that there's going to be no room for weakness or mercy if they're serious about saving Rukia, and perhaps even talk about the possibility of them having to take someone's life. After all, sparing the life of Soul Reapers they defeat is incredibly foolish and could very well lead to them getting themselves killed. Fortunately for the gang, they never really have to come face to face with this kind of thing, and when they let their opponents live, there's virtually no negative repercussion for these stupid decisions. And even though Kisuke tells Ichigo,
the only thing that your sword speaks of is senseless fright. And that's not good. What you do not need in battle is fear. Nothing will come of it. When you counter, you don't let them cut you. If you protect someone, you don't let them die. When you attack, you kill.
he completely throws that out the window when he gets into the Serite. Then there's this scene after Uryu defeats a Soul Reaper he ran into.
He's still alive. I just destroyed his soul chain in Hakusui Soul Sleep, the spots that govern spiritual powers. He's going to live, but his spiritual powers are no more. When he awakens, as a result of this battle, he'll no longer be a Soul Reaper. And that's good enough for now.
Now, since when did Soul Reapers have soul chains? How is that even possible? That's not how soul chains work. Unless you're a substitute like Ichigo, for someone to be a Soul Reaper, they would have had to already been dead and their soul successfully transferred to the Soul Society from the world of the living. So why would they still have a soul chain which is supposed to connect a soul to their physical body? And about the Hakusui Soul Sleep, Master Urahara mentioned this before, and that's how Byakuya destroyed Ichigo's power. The thing is, I thought a Zanpakuto had to be used to do such a thing. But from this scene, it would appear that attacking these little spots on a Soul Reaper's chest with any sort of spiritual power will make them a Soul Reaper no more. But why does this lead to him losing his powers? Does doing this somehow cause the destruction of his inner world and his Zanpakuto spirit? Because if that's the case, you think they tell Ichigo to be as protective of those spots as a Titan Shifter is with their nape, but I digress. Ichigo's with Ganju and they take some sorry excuse for a Soul Reaper as a hostage. This pathetic wimp actually wants Ichigo to save Rukia because he has a crush on her or something, I don't know. While that's happening, the Soul Reaper lieutenants have a quick damage assessment.
It's reported that both high-ranking officers have sustained serious injuries. A detailed damage assessment for the entire squad is currently underway. But at the moment, all we have to go on are unconfirmed preliminary reports of the day's action, which would seem to indicate that Squad 11 was almost completely annihilated.
Yeah, you guys are getting your asses kicked.
3 of the Ryoka have been positively identified, and 2 of these are known to have taken a member of Squad 4 hostage. Intelligence indicates that this group is heading this way. However, since a short time ago, we've been unable to detect their spiritual pressures, so their whereabouts are now unknown.
Yeah, you know what? At this point, I'm pretty convinced you guys can't detect spiritual pressure at all, to be honest. The Soul Reaper wimp leads Ichigo and Ganju under around to Rukia when they run into Renji. They have a pretty okay fight and obviously Ichigo wins. They're both heavily injured and just before Renji collapses we get a flashback and he gives a pretty nonsensical speech. It's supposed to be really emotional and gut-wrenching and all, but it just doesn't make any sense. Renji and Rukia were childhood friends and were broke as hell. They went to Soul Reaper school together and everything was going fine until Byakuya showed up wanting Rukia to join his noble Kuchiki family. The thing is, the noble simply made Rukia an offer. They didn't push or force anything onto her. He obviously wanted the perks of being in the noble family and accepted the offer. Even Renji was aware of this. But since then, he's been hating on Byakuya for pretty much no goddamn reason. He kept it to himself since Byakuya was so strong, and now after losing to Ichigo, he wants Rukia to be saved, which kinda seems like a complete 180 from when Renji first went to find Rukia and was totally on board with killing her then. And what's with this court system here? Because I feel like making a good argument as to why they shouldn't kill Rukia is easy, but these Soul Reapers act as if stopping her execution can only be done through some sort of fight or physical confrontation. And how Renji went from this to this, I really don't know. People don't age in the Soul Society. Anyway, after the fight, Hostage Boy and Ganju leave to take Ichigo back underground to heal his injuries and help him recover.
He took direct hits from the Zanpakuto of the Soul Reaper Lieutenant. By all rights, he should be dead. His will to live is incredible.
Oh sure, that makes sense. That's why he's alive. Goddamn this dialogue. As for Renji, he gets picked up by Soul Reapers who have only just taken note of Renji and Ichigo fighting after the fight's already ended. I don't know why it took them so long to get here, but they retrieve Renji and when Byakuya finds out, he turns up the stupidity to max levels.
I want Renji taken to prison.
But, Captain, Renji's been badly hurt fighting Ryoko by himself, without treatment.
Then I'm afraid he'll die. It was his choice to enter that fight alone. In such a situation, a defeat is forbidden. I have no use for a fool who does not understand that. The very sight of him still breathing offends me. Take him away.
Byakuya has been pretty cool and quiet up until now, and we always knew that he was stern and strict, but his mentality is ass backwards. Sure, Renji did go to fight Ichigo, and I'm not even sure how Renji knew when and where Ichigo would arrive, but because he lost, Byakuya no longer gives a single fuck about his lieutenant, which is a funny thing to be happening now because guess who won the first time they fought? Byakuya had to step in to stop Renji from getting even further humiliated by a 15-year-old who doesn't even know the name of his Zanpakuto. But now he's all like, oh, Renji went to go fight and lost, so I don't care if he dies now. The fuck is wrong with these people? For the sake of consistency, this is what should have happened. Byakuya senses Ichigo and Renji fighting and rushes over to help his lieutenant, since he knows that even back when they first met, Ichigo was a superior in terms of spiritual pressure. And how are these captains just teleporting around like this anyway? They can't even find a couple of teenage invaders but can instant transmission all over the barracks for some reason. We then have another captain's meeting and Jesus Christ, what the hell? The Ryoka, the invaders, aren't that strong compared to all of you, and they're not that hard to find. Captains, take your lieutenants and go get them. This is really work that shouldn't take more than a few hours, but these guys keep regrouping for meetings and even Kenpachi's here. What happened to your thirst for battle, buddy? The whole point of this particular meeting was just to say that since Renji has been defeated, they can't leave dealing with the invaders to lower level Soul Reapers, and that they can carry their Zanpakuto around with them at all times and can fully use their powers. And like so many things in Bleach, this doesn't make sense. The Soul Reapers were already carrying their swords around with them and using their powers to face the invaders in the first place. And why would this even be an order you're given now? A bunch of invaders enter into the Soul Society, which you generally can't enter without the help of another Soul Reaper, and defeat one of your best warriors, Jidambo. You have no idea who they are or what they want, then before you can turn around and say this could be trouble, you find out they've just punched through the barrier into the Serite. Why the hell would you not allow your Soul Reapers to carry their weapons and use their full powers should they come across one of these invaders from the beginning? Why is this an order you even have to give? You're the protectors and balance keepers of the Bleach universe and you're under attack by an unknown force that potentially threatens said universe. Why would it take Renji being defeated to give this order? You should have already known how powerful they were since all of you asses can sense power levels. It's one of your abilities. Jesus, this old man is about as logical as Kisuke and Yoruichi. Later on that night, the lieutenant of Squad 5, Momo, goes to chat with Captain Aizen after she gets her wartime orders. She dozes off and is nearly late for the next captain's meeting. On her way there, she finds Sosuke Aizen dead and stuck to a wall with his own Zanpakuto through his chest. Now I like this. It's a nice bit of mystery and a good swerve to the audience. And obviously the viewer knows that Ichigo and the gang had nothing to do with this, so the suspect number one would be Gin Ichimaru, the guy Toshiro actually warned Momo about, and the most suspicious looking, acting, and sounded captain amongst the Gote 13. But one small problem here. Toshiro was worried enough about Momo to actually give her a warning about Gin and even thought Aizen was in danger, but wouldn't the smart thing to do here be to take this directly up the chain to the head captain? Why just tell Momo if you think the life of another captain is in danger by another captain, all while you're dealing with invaders? Momo is so angry at Gin that she releases her Zanpakuto and tries to blow his ass up. Izuru steps in to protect his captain, and just as they're about to get into it, Toshiro stops the fight. The other lieutenants were just kind of watching till Toshiro tells them to arrest Momo and Izuru because the directing in the show is just awful.
I will report this incident to the head captain. Get these two out of my sight.
I hope you plan on reporting much more than just that. And I was really enjoying the tension between Toshiro and Gin. Toshiro clearly cares a great deal for Momo, and with this incredibly suspicious death of Captain Aizen, literally a few hours after he warned Momo, it's great. It's just that Toshiro's handling of the situation was pretty poor, especially for a character who's supposed to be a child prodigy. But back to our main boy. Ichigo is fully recovered and heads back on track with Puss Boy and Ganju to Rukia's holding cell. Chad is literally just sleeping in a random house he stumbled upon before he gets woken up by a bunch of Soul Reapers outside and kicks their asses. You see what I mean? It's like the characters don't exist until we're viewing them. How is Chad only getting found now? How has Uryu and Orihime not been found yet? Ichigo and Ganju is a bit more understandable, but even they should have been caught by now. And where the fuck is Yoruichi? These Soul Reapers are so incompetent, they're more like stormtroopers than balance keepers of the universe, to be honest. After the little scuffle, Chad asks one of the jobber Soul Reapers where to find Rukia, then he heads off. Ichigo and Ganju are also making their way to Rukia once again, although a bit ahead of Chad. Now maybe Ichigo's just completely oblivious to Chad's spiritual power, but they really should have just waited for him and regrouped. That's what all these assholes should be doing. But regardless, they're both cut off by captains, Ichigo confronted by Kenpachi and Chad by Shunsui. Finally, after like 4 goddamn days, a captain finds one of these intruders. Even though Kenpachi didn't actually find them, he kind of just waited for them on the path to Rukia. Same with Shunsui. Now, how did Kenpachi know they'd be coming for Rukia this way? Well, if you remember, his lieutenant Ikako told Ichigo where to find Rukia, then told Kenpachi he told Ichigo, so Kenny just waited on the path to cut off Ichigo. How Shunsui knew someone would be coming this way is beyond me. You might say it's because he can sense their spiritual pressure, but why the fuck would the captains be able to sense the intruder's spiritual pressure and just allow them to roam around for so long? Why are they even waiting for Ryoka to randomly just show up so they can cut them off instead of actively pursuing Ichigo and his friends? The only way this would make sense is if the captains couldn't sense the Ryoka's spiritual pressures, which would make no sense, and make the magic system in the show even more inconsistent.
For a single Ryoka, I'd be more than enough.
Now, we've been over this already. This is a direct order from old man Yamamoto. He doesn't want anyone to know we're still having problems with these pesky Ryoka.
Oh really? Well then maybe he should have just sent out a stealth force to find and apprehend the intruders, or I don't know, just a select few captains to actually pursue them instead of doing literally nothing. And to make matters worse, Kenpachi knows vital information on these invaders' objectives, and he just keeps it to himself. Why? Well, like I mentioned earlier, he's just looking for a good fight. And the love of fighting isn't just part of his character, it's his whole goddamn character, to the point where Kenpachi really doesn't care much about what's happening and the possible dangers that might be caused to the world around him. He'll only ever take the route and make the decisions that will lead him to fighting the strongest people he can. Now I know what you're thinking. I was thinking the same thing too. Why the hell is this guy a captain? Well, Squad 11 is a squad that anyone can become the captain of, so long as you defeat the current captain, and defeat can also include killing. Now once again, I know what you're thinking. Why would Yama allow a squad to exist where simply any random guy with a decent enough power level can kill the previous captain and gain all their power and authority? What kind of barbaric primitive shit is this? That's how Kenpachi became captain, by the way. He literally just strolled into the Serite one day, killed the last captain of Squad 11, and took his coat. Squad 11 is the only squad like this, and all its members seem to be okay with it, but it really makes me wonder where the line is for the squad. What if the guy who beats their current captain isn't a Soul Reaper but a Hollow or a Quincy, or I don't know, just a guy who pulled a fast one and bested the captain? Would that person still be made captain? Because the only prerequisite for being captain of this squad is power level, no skill, brains, experience, or character. But back to our current dilemma, Ichigo stands his ground to face Kenpachi and Ganju runs ahead to find Rukia. Kenny is so powerful that he let Ichigo get a free hit anywhere on his body, and Ichigo's sword can't even pierce him. So we learn two very important things here. Kenpachi is the strongest person Ichigo has ever come across, besides Byakuya of course, and that having a much higher spiritual pressure than someone else means you can basically nullify their attacks without even really trying. I mean, damn, this sure seems like something Ichigo should have been told before coming here, but not really much point in hating on Master Urahara now, since surely with this much of a power gap and no Rukia to argue for his sake, there's no way Ichigo's gonna make it out of this one. So might as well just make his peace with God. Or maybe he'll get a main character power up. Ichigo literally just tries harder, and he not only closes the gap in power, but even surpasses Kenpachi. Kenpachi even notes how Ichigo's spiritual pressure keeps rising and rising until they have their last big clash in the fight.
Even now your spiritual force still increases. Excellent.
Of course.
Now this is something that happens a lot in these big shonens that's filled to the brim with fights, but why? At what point does a writer say I'm just going to rely on smart writing and clever characters to carry my main boy through his journey and lay off the random power-ups? I'm sure this isn't something Kubo thinks much about, since random power-ups is the only hand Kubo ever plays for Ichigo. And I don't just mean up until this point, but in the future as well. Whenever his back is up against the wall, some nonsense happens that just makes him stronger. Even when someone actually kills him, he gets stronger. And no, I'm not making that up. This might work for some people, especially for a younger audience, but it just really removes all the stakes from any fight Ichigo has with anyone. And no, I'm not expecting some Game of Thrones type writing where the viewer actually thinks the main character can die at any time, but why write it like this and make it so blatantly obvious that Ichigo has a bottomless well of spiritual power that will arise whenever the plot demands it? In the end, Ichigo and Kenpachi are both in the same near-death condition, although Kenpachi says Ichigo won before falling over. His lieutenant Yachiru takes him away, and guess who finally shows up? Yoruichi. I sure hope this pussy has a good explanation for where he's been for 3 fucking days, especially where he was during the Ikaku fight, the Renji fight, throughout Ichigo, Uryu, and Chad encountering, fighting, and running from literally dozens of Soul Reapers, and why he's only just showing up now at the end of the Kenpachi fight. Just couldn't get there a couple minutes earlier, huh? Despite this fact being able to fucking teleport. Ganju and Hinata press on ahead to find Rukia and take out the 2 completely useless guards in front of her cell. They get inside and find her, but are approached by Byakuya. While that's happening, we get back to Ichigo and Yoruichi. He brought Ichigo to a cliffside and fixed up his wounds.
It was you who saved my life, wasn't it? Thanks for doing that.
Be thankful to your strong life force. Without it, you never would have survived such serious wounds, no matter what I did.
Strong life force? What the hell does that even mean?
Chad was lucky to fight who he did. He left Chad wounded but alive. Orihime and Uryu have avoided confrontation and so far haven't gotten a scratch.
How the hell do you even know all this, Yoruichi? Don't tell me you've just been watching over everybody but still at the same time refusing to help them. You're starting to sound like a piece of shit. Yoruichi then reveals to Ichigo how he was able to move his body all the way out here, and it turns out Yoruichi is actually a female Soul Reaper with the ability to turn into a cat, and she uses this weird device to fly to the cliffside. And as she's explaining this, they both sense Byakuya's spiritual pressure, and Ichigo hops up, takes the device, somehow knows how to use it, and flies away. Yoruichi literally just watches as Ichigo takes off and doesn't even attempt to stop him. Ichigo flies all the way back to Byakuya, and I gotta call bullshit. Byakuya hasn't even done anything yet, and somehow Ichigo is able to sense their power from wherever the hell he was, and I would assume Yoruichi took him a good distance away from where he fought Kenpachi. And Ichigo is able to trail Byakuya's power all the way back to Rukia's holding cell. I mean, shit, if Ichigo could do that, he should have found his friends a long time ago. Anyway, Byakuya releases his Zanpakuto for the first time and gives Ganju a bunch of paper cuts, even though he said he was going to kill him. Yoshiro, captain of Squad 13, which was Rukia's squad, shows up to stop Byakuya from doing any more damage, and that's when our main boy arrives. A little weird that Byakuya and Yoshiro didn't notice his power level until he was right beneath them, and by weird I mean stupid, but here he is. Rukia and Ichigo have a teary-eyed moment before Byakuya finally confronts Ichigo. He teleports behind him, and Ichigo actually blocks his initial attack. Now there is something very important to take note of here. You see, despite not having done any training since he entered the Serite, you'll notice Ichigo has gotten a lot stronger. First it was Ikaku, then Renji, Kenpachi, and now Byakuya. And back then he struggled quite a bit with Renji, who was significantly weaker than both Kenpachi and Byakuya. Ichigo, through just fighting, getting hurt, and recovering, just keeps getting stronger. In a way, the fights that he's been having have had the same effect that training would. And now here he is reacting to Byakuya using something called Flash Step. Now I'll admit, I'm not exactly 100% sure if Flash Step is actually teleporting, but I can't tell the difference. Byakuya is about to release his Zanpakuto again when Yoruichi stops him. Crazy how this bitch can travel so fast on foot but was missing for days on end when everyone landed in the Serite. She knocks Ichigo out and runs away with him, and for some reason before she leaves, she tells Byakuya that in 3 days she'll make Ichigo stronger than him. How, you ask? Well, you just wait, because what we find out in a few minutes, I would actually venture to call the pinnacle of battle writing in this show. Byakuya doesn't pursue Yoruichi because I guess she's too fast, even though he and any other captain should be able to easily trace her and Ichigo's spiritual pressure to wherever the fuck she's going. Byakuya doesn't even give enough of a shit to even try and find her later, nor does he even care that Rukia is now out of her cell. He just ignores her and takes off. So it's Mr. Nice Guy Jushiro and his lieutenants that has to get Rukia back into her cell and helps Ganju.
You probably want to know why I'm helping you, don't you?
Yes, sir.
It's only logical, really. We still don't know who killed Aizen, and you troublemakers are certainly prime suspects and an important source of information. Wouldn't want to kill you until we've investigated.
That's strange. This captain doesn't seem to be a complete moron. We finally get to check back in on Uryu and Orihime, and you won't fucking believe this. These guys stole clothes from a group of Soul Reapers they jumped and are masquerading as Soul Reapers.
I'm sneaky.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for reporting in.
Anyway, back to Ichigo.
I guess that's what happens when you don't fight for 100 years. You get so out of shape that after just a few dozen flash steps, you're exhausted.
Really? You haven't fought or trained in over 100 years? Okay. Once Ichigo wakes up, Yoruichi tells him that she brought him back to train, and that he alone can defeat Byakuya. I'm guessing that even though Yoruichi is faster, or at least I think she is, Byakuya would still beat her in a fight. Yoruichi tells Ichigo that his Zanpakuto was always in a release form, i.e. a Shikai, and that there's a second form called Bankai. Bankais are a huge staple in Bleach and normally takes years to gain and master, but with her method, a method that Master Urahara invented, they'll be able to do it in 3 days. And this bullshit right here was the final straw for me, where I switched in music my monitor out the fucking window. If Kisuke knew about a place and a method to gain such power in a short amount of time, why wasn't this the plan all along, since the moment Rukia was taken? Enter the Serite and find this little hideout where he and Yoruichi used to train and help Ichigo get his own Bankai. And this is all assuming that this method could only be performed in the Soul Society, because this should have been done before they even left the world of the living. If you two absolute fucking retards knew about a Zanpakuto's second form all along, this should have been the priority for Ichigo if he's going to be fighting through captains to get Rukia back. And why is Ichigo only being told about Bankais now? Something that in this universe is such a defining characteristic of a captain. Captains who, excluding Kenpachi alone, all have to have Bankais to become captains in the first place. Fuck this bullshit.